Welcome to CHBA's Net Zero Marketing and Communications Training module. My name is Natasha Rombo, and I'm CHBA's Director of Marketing and Communications. In this course, we're going to go through some net zero marketing fundamentals. We're going to see some examples of messaging in use. We're going to talk about developing a strategy for you, and we'll go over some resources that CHBA has to help you. So to start off with, over 1,000 homes have been labeled already through CHBA's Net Zero Home Labeling Program. Being a net zero renovator or builder is obviously a huge differential for your company. But the thing is that you need to talk about it. We see a lot of companies that are specializing in this, but they don't really talk about it in any of their messaging, if they do, it's pretty infrequent. So this course is aimed to show you the importance of having clear and consistent messaging and all the different ways that you can use it. Um, there's definitely a huge opportunity to educate your potential customers. You can share what makes your homes unique, and people actually want to know about net zero, what it is, what makes your home special. Several of CHBA's leading members have experimented with different messaging to see what resonates with the public, and we're going to share some of that with you today. And as I mentioned before, we have a lot of different resources to help you out, so we'll go over those too. Let's start with the marketing fundamentals. So first of all, before we get too far into it, we'll talk about the importance of messaging. Clear messaging is crucial to effective communication. And consistent messaging is authoritative, and it also helps people remember key points. Frequent messaging keeps net zero homes top of mind. And CHP has done a lot of work to develop this messaging, and we hope that everybody uses the same type of messaging through all of their communications, and being frequent and consistent will definitely help get that message across. So in order for you to be able to effectively communicate that, it's very important that you know the fundamentals yourself. Otherwise, how do you know what you're selling? So the first fundamental that we have is, why choose a net zero home to begin with? Why would customers pick your homes over somebody else's? So this is the messaging that we have, and you're welcome to use this anywhere that you use, any type of communications, whether it's on your website, social media, etc. You can pull these words right out of this description and use it as much as you want. So net zero homes, whether new or renovated, produce as much clean energy as they consume. They're up to 80% more energy efficient than a typical new home, and they use renewable energy systems to produce the remaining energy they need. Every part of the house works together to provide consistent temperatures throughout, to prevent drafts, and filter indoor air to reduce dust and allergens. The result is exceptional energy performance and the ultimate in comfort, a home at the forefront of sustainability. It all adds up to a better living experience. So from that, we've got these three pillars: exceptional value, greater comfort and healthier living, and environmentally responsible. So if we drill down into those a little bit, let's look at the exceptional value. We've got several bullet points for you to use here. And just note that value is going to really resonate with people who are concerned both about quality and about budget. So there's kind of two different ways of looking at that. So they care about their home being a good investment. They don't want to look at issues down the road. They don't want to think about depreciating value, etc. So for these people, these points really resonate. A net zero home produces as much energy as it consumes, and it's up to 80% more efficient than a home built to conventional standards. So with that, we say with a net zero home, your utility bills will fall to an all-time low and stay low all year round. Just note there that you can't say they'll go to zero, but we can say they'll go to an all-time low. Net zero home protects you from future increases in energy prices. And over the years, that could be a very big deal, especially depending on the province that you live in. And built to higher standards than conventional new homes, a net zero home is more durable. It's got higher performance, warm windows, and it's better insulated roof and walls. The second value point is about greater comfort and healthier living. So this will really resonate with people who prioritize how they feel in their homes. Often they may have young children, they might have health issues, or they could just be very health conscious. So again, we've got some bullet points here. A net zero home delivers exceptional comfort all year round. Advanced construction methods and materials, along with superior heating, cooling, and ventilation equipment, means more even temperatures throughout the home. Exceptional indoor air quality for healthier living. A built-in filtered fresh air system reduces allergens and asthma triggers like dust, pollen, and outdoor air pollution. And tightly built and well insulated, a net zero home is quieter. Outside noise such as traffic, lawnmowers, and barking dogs are virtually silenced. The third value proposition that we have is environmentally responsible. And this benefit will appeal to people who are conscious of the impact they're having on the planet, and who want to feel like they're doing something to help. So they could possibly be younger, we see that a lot, or it could really just be anybody that's really thinking about how they want to leave this world. So we have a few bullet points for that. By purchasing a net zero home, you're doing your part to protect against climate change and preserve natural resources for future generations. A net zero home produces as much energy, clean, renewable energy, as it consumes, and all of the Net Zero's home's features work together to significantly minimize your household's environmental footprint. So you can use any of this messaging wherever you want. You do not have to ask for permission. Grab it, take the full sentences. Don't change it. Keep it all the same. You don't have to think too much about it, and you can use it for anything that you're communicating: websites, social media, blog posts, any signage that you may have, brochures, videos, ads, interviews. It's really endless what you can do with it. We do have a website, chba .ca/net zero homes, or you can find it at netzerohome.com. And you can see all of the information that I just went over is on there for you to easily reference. If you're looking for more information on this as well, we do have a video series. We've got all of those three value points broken down for consumers. You could also use it yourself to familiarize yourself with the language. I've got them all as part of a YouTube playlist that you can access via CHBA's Net Zero Marketing Resources page, which I'll get more into a little bit later on. So before you get into talking about a net zero home as a sales or marketing professional, you really need to know yourself, how it works. Otherwise, how are you going to know what points that you can show off to the general public? So we're going to do sorry about that. We're going to do a little bit of an intro here on how a net zero home works. And a lot of this can be found in the first video that we have, which is the parts of a net zero home. So in a typical home built to the Canadian Building Code, about 50% of the home's energy consumption is used to heat the home, or if it's summertime, to cool the home. In a net zero home, the envelope, which is the exterior of the building, so that's the floors, the walls, the ceilings, the windows, the doors, the whole outside, and its mechanical system, which includes the heating, cooling, and ventilation systems, they're designed and constructed to be up to 80% more efficient, which means in turn that the heating is only 25% of the home's energy consumption. So right off the hop, the home is using a lot less energy to heat or to cool. And the remaining energy would be got by renewable energy sources like solar panels. So what's the difference between net zero and net zero ready? Because we often talk about them as just net zero, but there is a product called net zero ready. But simply put, the only difference between a net zero home and a net zero ready home is that a net zero home doesn't have those renewable energy systems installed. That's typically solar panels. But everything has been designed already and constructed to put those solar panels in place. So it's ready to go. So how do you communicate that to the public, to your clients, whoever who you're talking to? You can tell them to think of it as being wired for the future. So it's wired for future energy systems, so that when they're able to invest, when they have the money for it, it's all ready to go. So they don't have to make that investment upfront. So this is called a PV, which stands for photovoltaic ready. So again, we've got a 4-part video series explaining how these 3 elements of the home work together: the building envelope, mechanical systems, and the renewable energy sources. So they're also part of our YouTube playlist. If you want to learn more about it, you can look in there, but you can also share them on your own website. They're evergreen content, so that's not going to change. or wherever you interact with clients. All right, let's get into the net zero marketing um, aspects of CHBA's Home Buyer Preference Survey. So, what is the survey? It's the largest Canadian market research study on new home buyer preferences. So, it's not specific to net zero, but it does have quite a few energy efficiency questions in there, which we'll go over. It's powered by Avid Ratings Canada, and it's in its 8th year this year. So, over the 7 years that we've been doing this study, we've surveyed nearly 150,000 home buyers, which means that we're able to see trends as things change over time. And we survey customers on over 50 in depth areas of home design, building features, buying preferences, and demographics, which allows you to really drill down into a specific area. So let's say I want to know, well, what do people in Edmonton think about energy efficiency in homes? You can do that with the results of the survey. So this past year's survey, which was in 2021, these were the top 10 features. And out of them, you can see that 4 have to do with energy efficiency. Top feature was high efficiency windows. Number 2 was energy efficient appliances. Number 3 was just an overall energy efficient home. And then coming in at number 6 was an HRV ERV air exchange system. So that hasn't changed too much. There's a little bit of shuffling in the top 10 year over year, but for the most part, that remains pretty consistent. On the right side of the screen here, you can see what's actually motivating people for these energy efficiency features. And you can see that just over 45% of them are really looking for those lower utility costs. So when we're thinking about the messaging and how we're going to talk to people and draw them in and show them the value of net zero homes, 45% of everybody surveyed is looking for lower utility costs. So costs and value is really a key thing for them. 21% are really about protecting the environment. And then a good chunk, 7.5% roughly, are looking for the higher quality construction. Comfort is resonating a little bit lower with these folks. So again, keep in mind that these are buyers across the spectrum. These are not buyers of net zero homes. These are buyers of any type of home in here. And this is how they're valuing energy efficient features. Now, we just looked at how much they value them, right? That 45% looking for lower costs. But when we ask them, would you spend an extra $10,000 on the next home on it? You can see that energy efficiency, which is that light blue here, it's only 11.8%. So although 45% of people value it, only 11.8 are going to spend an extra $10,000 on those energy efficiency type upgrades. For the most part, people are interested in interior finishes and options. They want a larger lot, a larger home, or additional finished areas. All of those rank above energy efficiency. So some changes to note since the 2021, since the last year's surveys, which might have been influenced by the pandemic. Um, Although interior finishes and options are still highest, they did come down 5 points. And energy efficiency, unfortunately, itself also went down about 5 points. Closer to work and amenities went down as well. So, what is trending up? A larger lot and a larger home. So, when you think about potentially people were no longer needing to commute into work, spending a lot more time at home, that would make sense. We can't be sure that it was the pandemic influencing that, but those are the trends that we're seeing. We also ask them what they're willing to spend to reduce utility costs. Um, and 27% of them are only willing to spend $3,000. 21% are willing to spend 5. A few of them are willing to spend 10, but for the most part, not a lot are looking to spend in sort of that higher register. So again, placing value on reducing the bills, but not willing to spend the money upfront. So we did try kind of a different way of framing the question on what would they spend for an extra monthly payment. So that could be on their mortgage, for example, to reduce the utility costs. So the biggest chunk there is 30% of people would spend an extra $100 a month on their mortgage to reduce their utility costs. So when you think about framing the extra value that you get out of net zero homes, if you're not yet at a point where your net zero homes are priced the same as a home built to code or your other product line, which most builders aren't, this is a different way of framing it. So rather than saying, net zero homes are $25,000 more, you could break that down into X amount of dollars a month. And then we've got, what are you willing to accept to make your next home more affordable? Um, People were willing to accept a smaller home, being further from work, unfinished spaces, fewer community features, smaller lot, fewer homes, and finally, this one of the smallest ones, less energy efficient. So they don't want to pay for it. They expect it to be in the home, and they are not willing to accept less energy efficiency to make their home more affordable. So we're in this interesting position of it's highly valued and yet not enough really to put money behind it. Just a note on some of the features that we asked about the survey that were energy efficiency oriented. We asked about low flow toilets, for example, tankless water heaters, etc. So where does that leave us? We definitely have some challenges in selling net zero. For the most part, many buyers still aren't aware of all of the benefits, despite a few years now of doing our best to educate the public. It's coming slowly, but there's still a lot of work to be done. They just still don't understand how these homes are different, and we are noticing that a lot of the technical aspects we can talk about more and more. People are starting to find those quite interesting. Price can definitely be a barrier in a lot of markets. So that might be something that you need to address in your language as well. So how do we address these challenges? Well, first we need to look at who our audience is. Who are you talking to? Some of your communication materials might be different depending on who you're building for or what a particular ad campaign is trying to communicate and who you're talking to. So CHBA worked with a company called the Shelton Group, and they identified four main audiences for people who buy homes. So each of those audience types share beliefs, concerns, and values. So know who your audience is and how to market them is really the key. And one of the tips we have is to think, less about age and more about value. So a 25-year-old and a 75-year-old may share the exact same values, even though they have quite a spread in age. So, don't pigeonhole a certain age demographic into having a certain value set. Now, that said, you do have to think about how different demographics receive their information. Social media, specific channels on social media might be better for different age groups. And then you might have, print, traditional print marketing campaign or something like that might resonate better with older people who don't have social media, or might just be a different change for younger people. So think about that as you create your assets. So we look at the four different groups that Shelton classified was working class realists, cautious conservatives, concerned parents, and true believers. You can see the breakdown there. A true believers group, that's the group that's very into, saving the planet, energy efficiency. I'm going to do whatever I can. They're pretty much already on board. You don't have to do a big sell for them for net zero. But the rest of those groups, they're lagging behind, and they'll definitely be more of a challenge when trying to sell to them. So if you want to learn more about those audience profiles, as well as delve a lot deeper into the science behind net zero homes so that you can confidently sell them, very much recommend that you take the net zero sales course. You'll spend several hours going over this stuff. You'll practice it. You'll do real life examples, and it'll give you an opportunity to feel comfortable with the language. As I mentioned, it goes into the different audience groups in greater detail, including how to talk to them. So sort of like a script to go over these different things. And, how do I talk to a cautious conservative? What are they concerned about? How do I pick up the cues in what they're telling me so that I can talk to them, and really show them how this home can work for them. You'll also learn about what's being explored right now in the field by current builder staff and, what what their sales staff are going through, what they're experiencing, and how they're dealing with whether it's pushback or enthusiasm. And then any CHBA member who successfully completes the training, you can promote yourself as the CHBA qualified net zero sales professional. All right, so let's take a look at some of the messaging in use. So first caveat is that all around the world, everybody's still trying to figure this out. I've got some examples up here, but it's still a fairly new concept. So if you're ever feeling frustrated that people just aren't getting it, try and remind yourself that this is a pretty new thing that we're talking about here. Just a little bit of context that CHBA is very active on social media. We have 3 separate social media accounts. We've got CHBA Net Zero, so that's dedicated for everything net zero. CHBA national accounts, that's the association in general. And then we also have our Renomark account, which is specifically for the Renomark marketing program, centers about renovations. But with that, we cross promote some social media from the net zero renovation side of things as well. All of our social media content on the net zero side of things is centered around the net zero home. So that's new construction and renovation. The program itself, the CHBA Net Zero Home Labeling Program, its milestones, things that it's working on, et cetera. Different initiatives like our multi-unit residential buildings initiative, different pilots that we run. And we really try and bring the subject matter alive by talking about you, about the builders, the renovators, energy advisors, service organizations, the people that are involved in this, and telling their stories and sharing their projects. On that note, we talk about the council itself, so the sponsors, members of the council, what the council is working on, how it's trying to further net zero homes. We talk about events, training, webinars, summit. All of this stuff can be shared on your own social media channels as well. It shows how active the association is with net zero, and of course, you're part of that as well. We also talk about the CHBA Net Zero Home Award, both finalists and winners, and we produce a variety of blog posts on various topics. So just a quick look at how we've grown year over year. So this is from last year. So we've definitely got some big growth on Facebook, continues to grow. Twitter is our lowest growing channel. Instagram's coming along very nicely. And LinkedIn, which we just launched a few months ago, has seen good growth since the beginning of the year. We've reached almost 6 million people since we started the Net Zero social media in 2019. Not all of those started in 2019. I just mentioned LinkedIn was just started a few months ago. But you can see here the difference between our organic reach and our paid reach as well. So when we do paid ads on the CHBA side of things, we approach them in a few different ways. So we'll typically target ads for people's interests based in home renovation, construction, design, that kind of thing. And we're looking for anybody that's environmentally conscious, that's interested in sustainability, green building features, that sort of thing. And then usually we typically focus on potential buyer age. So for us, we've sort of determined that's anywhere from 25, which might be a little bit young, but we're optimistic, to around 65 and older. And often we'll pre-qualify that with a completion of a post-secondary degree, just in our current environment right now, and how expensive new homes typically are. We've decided that would be a good qualifier. But of course, whatever you do, different types of ads are going to need different types of targeting. So, this does not have to be what you use here. And I've got some examples in here. If you look at the deck later, you can peep at them a little bit more. And just a note that for our follower ads, we're now testing a really broad audience. So we've kind of removed all of those interests and we're just targeting age to try and reach more people. In a nutshell, this is what our audience looks like. Slightly more women on Facebook, slightly more men on Twitter, more men, interestingly, on Instagram. And then you can see the age ranges here for the most part. Twitter and Instagram are kind of that like 25 to 45 age. And then Facebook is a pretty good spread across all and definitely has the most seniors on there at 65 plus. So a while back, we did very extensive A/B testing so that we could tell internally what messaging is resonating with our audience and use that further. And we also thought it would be a great thing to share with members because not everybody has the opportunity to do A/B testing like that. So we wanted to show you what we've learned. So through that, of course, we had a goal. And the goal was to build followers on Facebook and Twitter. We did 5 rounds of testing, and each round went for a month at a time because it's good to give a lot of lead time to those ads so that the different platforms can learn your audiences. So as I mentioned, our target group is really for potential home buyers, age 25 and up. And we tested 3 different types of messaging with those 3 value propositions: cost saving, energy efficiency, and comfort. And our objectives were to determine which messaging and assets best resonated with the different demographics. So, round 1, we did cost versus comfort. We tested 2 different age groups. We showed exterior images of homes, and we did a pay by follower ad. And you can see all across the board, cost resonated best with 50 plus, age 50 plus, and that was true for both Twitter and Facebook. Our second round, this time because cost won the last one, we did cost versus energy efficiency, same age groups, exterior shots again. This time we switched to a pay by impression. We had a slightly different result. So for the younger age demographic, cost won on Twitter. That was the best performing. And then for the Facebook winner, we had the 50 plus age group and also cost. So cost was the winner yet again. Round 3, we did energy efficiency versus cost again. Same 2 different age groups. We tried interior shots for this time, and we did a paid by follower again. The winner on Twitter was 50 plus for cost, and the winner on Facebook was energy efficiency for 50 plus. So again, that older demographic was winning on Facebook and Twitter. Round 4, we tested very much the same, but interior and exterior shots. And you can see same results there. And then round 5, we really shook it up a little bit. We tested all 3 different pillars or values: cost, energy efficiency, and comfort. This time we didn't differentiate based on age. It was just 25 plus. We used exterior shots again. We tried it with a text overlay to see if that different type of graphic worked. And it did in some cases. So for energy efficiency, Facebook, or sorry, Twitter won for the text overlay, but Facebook did better for the exterior shot. For cost, both of them did better for the exterior shot, and for comfort, it was the text overlay. So just a few observations. So overall, Twitter showed our ads to more men than women, but the ads converted better with women. So again, the numbers that you get, you have to look at the big picture and what does that mean? So our messaging resonated the best with the ages 50 plus, except in that second round there. And the cost messaging won over for all of the different A/B tests. And we found that exterior shots resonated best with both demographics, though the interior shots did perform better when paired with the age 50 plus. In terms of the different types of campaigns that we ran, paid by follower converted better than paid by impressions, and we've definitely used that going forward. Best performing interests were new homes, design, and entertaining at home. And best performing keywords were new homes, savings, and renewable energy. So you can really see that cost in there as well. And you can see here the total impressions, and our cost per follower for this particular round was $2.14. Facebook was much more equal in terms of the conversion rate between men and women. All messaging resonated better with that older age group. Cost was also, for the most part, the leading message, except for round 5, which switched to energy efficiency. So don't take it for granted that every round is going to be the same. And overall, Facebook garnered much more engagement than Twitter. The comfort messaging was the lowest for both of them, but it did perform a bit better on Facebook than Twitter. And exterior shots, once again, were the win for that one. So much lower cost for a follower on Facebook with $1.26. So the key takeaways from that is, that cost savings for us was really the key out of the three. Pay by follower, for us, we're continuing those ads after we've done this campaign. It's been almost a year since, and we continue to do them. They're very consistent month to month, but you do need to keep them up long term to see results. So if you've just been going for a few weeks and you're not seeing anything, don't give up hope. Keep that in the field for even a couple of months and see how it goes. We reuse our audience month to month, so it's already learned our audience for the most part. We do shake it up every once in a while, but we know those ones are consistent and get us new followers every month. Your engagement also builds up over time. So even if you get little comments that are just like, nice or looks good, reply to them because that adds to your engagement and helps more people see it. We're finding that the older demographic is really resonating with all of that messaging. Maybe not surprising. Maybe they've got more time. Maybe they got a little bit more money. Um, and then the exterior shots, for the most part, resonate better than interior. So we use those a lot more. So since then, how have we shaken things up? We've actually completely eliminated our Twitter ads. We found that month over month, we got fewer and fewer Twitter followers out of it. Engagement is going down on that platform, and that's kind of across the board. So at this point, we've completely eliminated our Twitter ads, and as I mentioned, we've switched to a broader audience for Facebook and Instagram ads, which is not targeting interest and just targeting 25 up, because we're actually trying to reach a broader group of people. Maybe they don't know that they're interested in energy efficiency or energy efficient homes, or they don't know what net zero homes are. So we're actually trying to reach those people and not taking it for granted that they already have that interest already. We did try LinkedIn. It's really not performing very well. We'll keep at it, but we've heard from a few different organizations that they're noticing the same thing. So right now, advertising itself on LinkedIn is quite expensive and not a lot of bang for your buck. That said, our organic growth is doing quite nicely. So we are, for the most part, using it as a business to business type of platform. So you might have different results with your B2C. And up next, we all know that TikTok has exploded. For us, it's a matter of looking at what resources we have and how well could we use that platform, but it's definitely something that we're considering in the future. Other places that we use our messaging is blog posts. We write typically one blog post a month, and we promote those blog posts on social media. So we talk about any content topic really that's for the public audience: comfort, design, efficiency, the science behind things, people involved, awards. Whenever we notice that we're getting a lot of questions on social media and like a recurring type of question, then we'll think about, well, can we turn that into a blog post? So for example, what is phantom energy usage and how does it affect your utility costs? We've had people ask what is phantom energy, or we've used it and realized that we didn't really well define it in an easy to reach place for people. So we created a blog post on it. So you can think about how you can use that in your business, what sets your homes apart, and how can you explain it to your customers while showing off your product. So this is from a little while ago. It doesn't include the last few blog posts, but at the time, our top performing blog post from social media ads was why net zero homes are healthier and more comfortable, which would have a really low cost per click rate at 17 cents. And then back when we were advertising on Twitter, we had Do Net Zero Homes Save You Money? So again, that cost 65 cents per click, which was quite good for Twitter. And we do have quite a few page views on our blog, and people spend a good deal of time reading them. So that's important stats for you to notice about your own blogs or website, as well as how much time are people spending with the content, and do you think it's appropriate for how long your article length is. We also focus on our earned media, so educating the media itself on what is a net zero home and what are the benefits, as well as the public. And when I say net zero homes, I always mean renovations as well, because you're renovating a home to net zero or net zero ready. And this can include the benefits and the challenges. There's still a lot of challenges out there. Don't be shy to talk about what they are. Think of yourself as an advocate for net zero homes. And as an advocate, you're representing it, and what barriers are in place. What's keeping us from building more of them? And part of what we try and do with our earned media, of course, is bring awareness to CHBA's net zero home labeling program. and the professionals who are part of it. So there's, these days with all of the codes being sort of increasing the requirements for energy efficiency, there's definitely an opportunity to educate. You can educate the public, you can educate your own local media, building officials, your municipality, all about what that means and what net zero homes can bring and what are some of the barriers. So now we're going to talk a little bit about how our findings at CHBA compare to some different net zero builders, because obviously, as an industry association, we work a little bit differently, and we'll see if the messaging changes at all or the findings change at all. But first, a note on targeting differences. So, as a not for profit, CHBA, we have fewer targeting restrictions in general. So, we might be able to do a little bit more targeting with our ads. And then there's always, sometimes if you're doing ads on Facebook, for example, something might be flagged and your ad doesn't go through. Sometimes it's really hard to figure out what that is. But it happens to all of us, so don't get too discouraged. And sometimes one ad will fly and the other one won't. But anyway, keep going. So our first company that we've got here is Avalon Master Builder. They're based in Calgary, and they're part of the CHBA Net Zero MERB initiative. So they last year built 16 units for their Zen Sequel townhomes. 8 were net zero and 8 were net zero ready. So just to give you some context, their prices started at the time in the 170s. And since they started their campaign, all of their units did sell. So they spent their messaging ad dollars to hit 2 different target groups. The first was first-time buyers. So they defined that as single or married with no kids, early 20s to late 30s, early 40s. And then the second target group that they were looking at was those right-sizers looking to find their long-term or forever home. They had to live in Calgary between 35 to 65, and then they were able to set an income threshold of $100,000 per household. So they looked at those 3 different value pillars that we have: affordability, comfort, and social responsibility in their messaging. So they did a few different types of ads. They had carousel ads, and then they used 2 different creative sets for those for the different age groups. And they also produced a series of 9 educational videos that had their branding, the CHBA, and the Net Zero branding. And then they tried different versions of it promoted with and without sound and auto captioning. So very interestingly, their top performing individual ad was actually a video about drain water heat recovery. Their carousel ad was the second biggest one that was on affordability messaging. And then third place was a video on affordability, and then net zero versus net zero ready was the angle. The most resonating value proposition was comfort. And then you had, but it was number 2 for clicks. And then affordability was second in reach and impression, but it was actually converted the best, number 1 for clicks. And social responsibility was last in both categories. So that group might be a little bit harder to reach on social media. So what did we learn from this? Don't be afraid to get technical. The fact that their video on drain water heat recovery was surprising to Avalon and probably to pretty much everybody else who heard that. Once upon a time, when we used technical language, we found that it maybe scared people, and they didn't react or interact with it quite as much. But I think now there's quite a hunger for that type of information. And if you're one of the first people to put it out there, you might get a really great response for your video. If somebody's never seen anything on drain water heat recovery, what is it? I have no clue. Think about how interesting that might be. Even if they haven't really thought about buying a net zero home before, they're learning something. And if you can provide that value to them, it might really surprise you how well those ads perform. The other company we're going to look at is TerraView Custom Homes. They're based in Guelph, Ontario. They do custom and production homes. And they actually contract out their social media to another company called Durell Communications. So again, if you look in real close, you can see their audience here, but for the most part, 70% of them are women. And then you've kind of got that middle, 35 to 45 age group that performs the best for them. So they had some really cool concepts here. First one on the left is they put out these like reminder posts like you might get on your phone, which really grabs attention. But they're actually helpful tips and reminders for homeowner. So this one here is, have you changed your furnace filter? So if you put that out sort of the key times of year where you do that, it would, helpful tip for people, and you can get more into your product messaging, and talk about, the savings that you can get from net zero homes. The one on the right-hand side is promoting a blog post. It's great messaging, and it was actually a very good prompt for the comments because it was asking people what they're currently reading, which has nothing to do with with net zero, but it's a great social media tactic because it's an easy question to answer and it gets people engaged. So your engagement's going to push that up to the top. But compared to the one on the left, maybe it's not enough for people to stop their scroll, but it's definitely an interesting approach. And they've tried different visuals here. They've always got really nice graphics. So the one on the left is a static image that attracting viewers to the blog with a high impact statistic in the copy there. And the one on the right was carousel. So it had several different images of all those different value propositions. It's very educational and interactive. They also produced a video series that they shared in the form of reels that have a 24-hour shelf life. So it was called their hashtag homeowner how-to video series, and it provides customers with guidance, expertise, and knowledge behind living in one of their homes. So they planned the whole series out in advance. They had 12 different videos planned. It took them 2 whole days to record it, and they outsourced the videography and the post production. But as a result, they're left with a whole video series that they can use. They also do a homeowner spotlight series for blog posts, which they share regularly to social media. And for this one, it's really about their sales staff connecting with the homeowner. So they forge that relationship during the sales process. And then after the sales, after they've been living in the home for a while, they go back to that homeowner and they say, checking in on you. Hey, how's it all going? Are you enjoying your home? And hopefully the homeowner replies with, yes, everything's been great. And then you say, we'd really love to feature your family. So it's a great use of continuing on that relationship right from the sales stage and how you can use it for your communications later. So they started by reaching out to homeowners, but they found that the more they did these posts, they actually had other buyers who kind of suddenly it was a status thing, and they were getting approached by the buyers saying, "Hey, you could feature us. That'd be cool." And here we put together a few different examples, recent examples of CHPA members who are builders and renovators through the CHPA Net Zero Home Labeling Program. With their social media, they're talking about recent projects, highlighting team members and their involvement in furthering their education or being involved in committees and councils, etc. They talk about their community involvement, and they're taking all of that content, and using it in various ways, including videos. They're putting them on reels. They've got still images. They're using them on their websites and all over the place. So if you're looking for inspiration, there are a ton of builders out there who are doing great things. Have a look. A lot of them are using our hashtag, so you can find them that way if you're looking for inspiration. Just across the world, it's hard to search for social media examples in other countries that don't speak English because you can't really tell what you should be searching for. We've got a few examples for English speaking countries here, the States, Australia, the UK, and South Africa. And you can kind of see that everybody's sort of talking about it in the same way. So we're on the right track. All right, so now it's over to you and developing a strategy. So, in order to develop a robust communication strategy, you'll definitely want to have several elements as part of it. So, breaking down those elements, we've got earned media. This is also known as news media. So, this is media, or this is yeah, it's media where you don't create it and you're not the one paying for it, but other people are talking about you. So you've earned it. So examples could be news articles, blog posts. It could be backlinks to your website. So if somebody else has a blog post and mentions you in it and link back to your site, that would be earned media. Even reviews. So if somebody talks about you on a social media site, for example, like or rates you on Yelp or something like that, technically that's earned media. Social media posts that others put up about you and tag you in it TV features, books, etc. So owned media is where you have full control. Examples would be your website, blog, if you produce a podcast, if you send out a newsletter, you've got email lists, and then any graphics, images, videos, etc. that you create in-house. So shared media is essentially social media. And then there's other traditional advertising avenues as well. So speaking of earned media first, a few tips is to, first of all, if you haven't already, build an email list of contacts that could be interested in your news. So typically you'd be looking at, journalists who cover housing, environmentalism, home design, technology, like anything that your home's special for, essentially. You're going to want to try and find people that like speaking about that. When you do have newsworthy content, and that's different for different people, reach out to those people on the list. A lot of people are advised to reach out to your sort of main source first and have them as your almost confidant source. And if they turn it down, then you can go to your greater group. You can just send it out to everybody. You can try different tactics and see what works. Another thing to do is to make contacts in your area. Do that by getting involved in community activities, even ones that aren't directly related to housing or your project. So the more that your name is out there, more your company's name is out there in a positive light, the better. So think outside the box a little bit there. It's a fun team building activity as well. It's great for morale and it shows that you give back to the community. Be available. Journalists are often on really tight timelines. You may miss a story opportunity if you're not around to take an interview. And if you can't take it, just write back to them as soon as possible so they're not sort of waiting on the hook and seeing if they should contact somebody else. And then lastly, have useful content on your website so that you're kind of the go-to resource when people are searching for things. So if a journalist in the area, for example, was looking for net zero homes, make sure that you've got all that content on there so that when they do a Google search, it's your company that comes up first and you look like the authority on the matter. Owned media is very important because you're in complete control of the messaging and it also gives you stability. So, those social media platforms, you spend a lot of time building them up and building your audience, but one day they may go under and you've lost all of that. For owned media, that won't be the case. You have control over it. So, we don't tend to think of it, like we do advertising dollars. It definitely does cost money though, but it's an investment in your brand like anything else. Make sure that you include contact lists and lead generators on your site as well. So build them in whenever you can. This is CHBA's site, and we've tried to include all the key elements for a functional website on here. So we've got informative content, fully clear navigation, engaging images. We use stock images because we don't have, a home that we're building, but absolutely you should be using real images that, you've contracted someone to take or you've taken it in-house for it. Make sure you got that lead form. If you're selling a home or you're selling your services as a renovator, that should be on there. And definitely have easy to find contact information for your company. And then every once in a while, make it part of your strategy to really take a look at your website analytics and find out what's bringing in the traffic. And not just that, but where are people going on your site? Do they stop after a certain page and don't seem to go further? Does it bring them to a dead end? Or where can you lead people and how can you better, if you want them to go to that lead form, make sure it's built in on multiple pages. Just an example from CHBA's netzerohome.com site on where our traffic comes from. So the majority of it comes from search engines, and this is actually growing. Last year, we were at 53% of our traffic came from there, and this year it's up to 65, which I think is great. It means that we've done a great job with our SEO over time, and that's really starting to build. Direct traffic, so when people go straight there, is down from 24%. Again, I would say this is probably a good thing. It's likely fewer people that know already about the association. So it's good to see more traffic coming from search engines in that regard. Social media, although we spent much more advertising, it's actually down again due to that search engine going up quite a bit. Email is one of our lowest sources at about 2%. Blog is also 2%, and then other referrals is 10%. So you can see here that our page views are way up. Our time on page is down just a little bit. Not much to make a note of the last year. And then our bounce rate has gone up, which is actually a bad thing. But when you look at our bounce rate, we're at like less than 1%, which is incredibly low. It means that we're doing a very good job of making sure that people don't just land on that page and then bounce, leave our website. They're going to other pages and reading other content. In terms of developing a strategy of what you actually have on your site and you're trying to build up that SEO, one of the things that you can do is trying to figure out, well, what search terms are people using right now that lead them to my site. So Google actually has a tool for that. It's called the Google Search Console, and it's connected to your Google Analytics, which you absolutely should have hooked up to your site. So once you connect that, it tells you what search terms are making you show up on searches and then lead to website visits. So you can see here on the CHBA page, we've got Net Zero Homes, Net Zero Homes Ontario, Net Zero Homes Canada, Net Zero Home, Net Zero, all one word, home. What is a net zero home? Net zero house, net zero ready homes, net zero home. So obviously net zero, big key search term for us. You can see here we've got location in a few different spots, variations on the spelling, the difference of home versus house, etc. So you should look at your own search terms and then analyze if those are actually the ones that you want people to find you from. So, maybe the search term that you're being found on doesn't quite align with what you're trying to sell, which might mean that maybe you need to revisit the copy content that you have on your site. Or maybe you've got an untapped potential somewhere that you haven't seen. In terms of hashtags, we had a lot of questions about what hashtags to use. So hashtags, there's different ways to use them. They can be proprietary. So these are ones that you create yourself and are specific to your company. So it could be your company name hashtag, for example, or they could be shared ones. And those are the ones that people use to search to find services, ideas, entertainment, or find you as a builder. So definitely try including your location in the hashtag, and sometimes just including your location hashtag separately will get a bunch of people to find you as well. Don't be so specific as to say builder. Um, they do have free hashtag generators. One of them is called Inflect. So it'll give you data based on the most popular hashtags. But you can also try just having a look at your competitors or other people who do the same thing as you in different locations to see what hashtags they're using, try them out. Hashtags are not the be all and end all. They can be a great tool for people to find you, but they need to be the right people. So, if you have 10,000 views on a post or something that may feel great, but it didn't result in any sales, didn't result in any leads. So, you know, a view or an impression based on a hashtag could be good, but if you're really just blasting a whole bunch of different hashtags, it may not be the best strategy for you. The top hashtags that we have for our channels are CHBA Net Zero Homes, Net Zero Home, Green Builder, and Energy Efficiency. And we've got a couple of different examples here of two different builders who've used a variety of hashtags, and they always have really great ones on there. So shake it up. You don't have to use all the same hashtags all the time. You can try different ones, try fewer, try more. Some platforms have limits, others don't. So see what works for you. Definitely tag us so we can see what you're posting, we can share. In terms of social media, definitely, have a look at how much you can do well. It doesn't make sense to be on 6 different channels, but you can only post to them, once every 4 weeks because you don't have the capacity to be on there consistently. If you're not consistent with it and you can't post frequently, you're never going to build up that momentum, that organic momentum on there. So definitely analyze how much you can do well. And if you need to, and you've got the funds to outsource, but do keep in mind that outsourcing still is quite a time commitment because you have to train people up, you have to oversee the creative. Some people want to be more involved than others, but there's definitely a little bit of a curve there. So if you don't have the capacity to do it in house, still need a little bit to supervise those companies that you might hire. So try to stay abreast of new trends, ideas, check out different platforms that you're on, not on, see if it's something that might interest you. 5 years ago, I don't even know if it was around 5 years ago, but once upon a time, we didn't want to be on TikTok because it was all 15-year-olds and they weren't buying homes. Since then, the platform has grown quite a lot and you have people of all ages on there. So just because we weren't interested in TikTok a few years ago doesn't mean that we're not interested in TikTok now. So don't be afraid to change your mind on things either as you assess how they're changing. And if you can, diversify on more than one platform. As I mentioned before, you just never know. They're always changing the algorithm, they're changing the costs. It may get to a point one day where that platform no longer makes sense to be advertising on, and you might wish that you'd had spent some time building up another platform as well. So try and diversify and keep testing your messaging. We test our messaging all the time. We test our audience groups. We test our creative. Um, just as we change in our ideas, the public is also changing about what they're ready to hear about and what they're interested in. And most importantly, I think observe others in the industry and learn from them. Take great ideas from what other people are doing, and then, make them your own. Put your own spin on them. An example of other media is this example of a printed postcard that was done by Avalon, who we talked about earlier. So they actually had a QR code on the back of this postcard, and they tracked if people who received the postcard visited their registration page, and then also tracked if they returned within 14 days. And they had geographic parameters in place there. They ran it for 2 months, and the second month did much better than the first month. So that's a cool idea of, if you are using print or traditional media, it's important to figure out how to track it and how to tell whether or not it's effective, which can be a little bit more challenging with print media, but this company found a great way to do it. All right, and finally, we'll talk about some resources that we have for members up on our website. So first, we have an entire marketing resource webpage for the Net Zero Home Labeling Program. I've circled it here, but you can find it. It's open to anybody that's part of the labeling program. And we've got a ton of content on there, digital assets. And logos, however, are locked down to program participants. So you wouldn't be able to access those unless you're part of the Net Zero Home Labeling Program. And we do have, as I mentioned, that whole asset library where we've got stock images and videos, animated videos, or animated logos, sorry, pieces of videos that you can easily put together with your own. So everybody's kind of got a consistent messaging and sort of a consistent look. But if you don't have a ton of resources internally to put videos together, we've kind of sectioned everything off into little bits and pieces that you could put them on the beginning of your video or something like that. And there's over 100 assets in there. We also have a YouTube playlist. I mentioned a few of them earlier, which talked about the different values, like 3 different value sets for the net zero homes, and also sort of how the parts of a net zero home work. So that content is all evergreen. You can use it to get educated yourself, to talk to your customers about it. You can share it any way you want. You don't need to ask for our permission to host it on your website or to share it on your social media. And as always, anything that we share on social media, you're absolutely encouraged to reshare. So if you're ever looking for content someday and kind of running a little bit dry, check out our channel and maybe there's something on there that you can repost. We also have social media tips for qualified net zero builders and renovators, including where to share, who to tag, how to tag someone if you need the basics. And then, as mentioned here, some suggested hashtags. We do have 2 awards for net zero homes in CHBA's National Awards for Housing Excellence, which is Canada's premier awards for new homes, renovations, residential marketing, and community development. The 2 awards we have one for custom and net zero renovations, and then one for production net zero homes. All of the homes have to be labeled through the net zero home labeling program, so they're all kind of at an even level in terms of energy efficiency. And we promote the award finalists and entrants and winners really extensively on social media. We use it throughout the year. It's a source of pretty much all of the content that we share on social media. So you can see more info on that and see past winners at chba.ca/housing awards. We also have a lot of other resources for you. We've got, there's the logo that's available on that marketing webpage. We have icons. So if you wanted to add it to your email signature, for example, we have brochures that are customizable plaques that you can put on your home. Anything on the website, you're welcome to use, as I've said before. All of our social media, we post, like 15 times a week on CHBA's Net Zero social media channels. You can share any of that great content. We do have the Net Zero sales training course, which goes way more into depth into the science behind net zero homes and then the language to use to sell it. We do have sample language as well for sample legal language for sales and purchase agreements. And there's work being done on rebates through the mortgage insurance premiums as well that you can talk about. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. For a list of all of CHBA's qualified net zero training, visit www.ca.nz training.